This is the Advanced Selling Podcast.
I meditate. I light a candle, I burn.
The aim of this podcast is to help business sales teams grow their business with modern strategies and philosophies. Now your hosts, Bill Caskey and Bryan Neal.
The Advanced Selling Podcast. Welcome again. Our producer, Jill, we just asked her if she was going to stay in the room while we record this. She goes, no, I'm going to leave. She goes, you know, I've noticed that when I'm not here, you guys act like I'm not here. Bill and I've been pondering that thought for a couple minutes. We're not going to disclose Jill's hair color. Done.
Done. We just
really
did.
Funny.
We just did.
Oh, dear. Advanced Selling Podcast. Welcome back. Bryan Neal.
Bill Caskey.
Good to see you. Got a spring shirt on for a fall day. You've got a fall
I
collection
have
out.
fall collection
really
out.
nice.
Yeah, black and brown. Yep.
Let's see. We're here every week. We've got Promote. We've got something coming up this Wednesday, a new product, new program called Whiteboard Wednesday. Great stuff. We're getting some great feedback, so I'd encourage you to check that out. We have a topic today, yeah?
We do have a topic. You've got the topic.
I do have the topic, and I actually have it
and
on
I've
my
not heard it, so I'm
iPhone.
trusting that you will.
The concept here is what to do with an upset, maybe irate client or prospect, someone that has been very, very direct and adamant that they are absolutely unhappy, displeased with you, your company, and what you've done, that sort of thing. I had this come up, and I'm just going to read bits and pieces from an email. And this email was sent from one of my client's customers to my client. So they asked me, hey, here's the email. How do we respond to this one? All right, so I'm going to read bits and pieces of the email. I'm going to work to protect the innocent here and just make it generic.
Yep.
And then I'd love for us just to comment on it. What I'd like to break down is how should the salesperson, number one, think about this and where should they put it mentally? And then number two, what should they do and what should they say about it? Fair enough?
10-4.
So this is from basically a customer to a salesperson. And it says, hi, blank. It's an email, okay? I left you a voicemail about this yesterday, and I'm surprised that I haven't heard back from you.
Uh-oh. That's a bad start.
Did you receive my message? On the outside chance that you're in the hospital, the only excuse for not replying to a dissatisfied client, in my opinion, close paren.
Ooh.
I am copying your manager on this email, so the matter will be addressed.
This is not good.
Okay? To reiterate, we are understandably upset that blah, 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 blah happened. There was an issue that occurred. Even more distasteful is that when we actually decided not to do this, that you actually took this idea to our competitor, which isn't quite accurate, but that's how they're perceiving it.
Yeah.
So my client had this idea for this customer. The customer said, no thanks. And then all of a sudden the customer saw that their competitor actually they got upset about this. I think I deserve an explanation of why you thought this was an acceptable way to treat clients.
Wow.
Okay. I'm very disappointed and will be hard pressed to understand that you are have us in your best consideration, our best interest. Signature. No, sincerely or anything like that. Okay. So
that's a tough letter.
Tough, isn't it? Very
That's one
direct,
of the tougher letters.
Very direct. Some accusation about not responding quick enough. There's some pain there. There's pain on the fact that maybe this person feels like that you did something that was immoral is a strong word, but you sort of went around them. And there's some factual things that I know to be true where the person writing this really isn't in a strong position, actually. If you were a lawyer looking at this case, the person who's upset that's writing this email has some facts that aren't square.
Okay.
All right. Liken this to take our business for a moment. We can't really work exclusively with a certain industry. We can't have one accounting firm and say, okay, we're never going to have another accounting firm. Most businesses are like that.
Right.
It's not like an NBC affiliate only does McDonald's, but they don't advertise Arby's or Burger King. They can't do that. It's one of those sort of scenarios. So.
So there's no way they could have had an exclusive.
No way.
They don't sell
No
exclusives.
way.
Okay.
No way at all.
But there is the perception that something was not right here about either how it was communicated or
So what I want to talk about was for my client here and then for anyone else who's had this scenario happen to them, how do we process things like this? Because when you receive these, and so now I'll play Coach Bill, what's your normal reaction? What's the normal human reaction when you read this? So
if it's toward me, if it's directed toward me, I'd be very defensive.
Instantly defensive. You might even be aggressively defensive.
I would immediately write a letter and send back, hit reply, and then hit send, and then say, oh my God, can I get that back?
Frog
I didn't
uncle.
sound right.
No, that's not good. So Yeah. So what we want to do from a coaching standpoint is we want to teach our clients and then our listeners to the Advanced Selling Podcast and now our viewers, how should they process information like this? All right. So let me tell you what I told them, and you please chime in when you want to say it. Step number one is we need this sort of deep breath breathing process to get square in our own heads. Your meds should kick in here. This is good. So we first have to get square in our heads, and we have to get to a place where we are not defensive. We have a little mantra, a little saying around here that is there is really only room for one ego in a sales process, and that's our customers. We have to let their ego be. That doesn't mean that we are spineless and just lay down to everyone.
Right.
But we want to stay out of this sort of tit-for-tat, argumentative, well, yes, I did, no, I didn't thing, and have a real strong adult-to-adult conversation. So the first thing for me, from a coaching standpoint, if this has happened to you before or to my client here, is I've got to get straight in my own head, and I've got to process some things. I've got to first understand, why am I defensive? So what is it about this information that's coming to me that's making me feel defensive? Why am I that way? And then from an intent and a detachment standpoint, can I get okay with living without this client? Can I get mentally to the place where if they're so upset they're going to leave, I've got to be able to get there.
Why do I need to get there?
I think I need to get there because if I don't, it's going to create an environment where there's still pressure. If I relieve the pressure, I have more of a chance for the person on the other end to calm and come clean with what's really the issue. Because there are also some things in this email that I don't think are the real issue. There's this "you didn't call me back" thing. That's not the real thing. That's not the real problem.
Right.
There's something deeper that's probably, and this person who wrote this is sort of a middle person, like a representative. So there's an embarrassment element. You see what I mean? There's "oh, you made me look bad to them" element to this. And that, to me, is the root of what's going on here. At the end. And it could even be that perhaps this interaction makes this middle person lose their relationship with the client. So it's now costing them money. See what I mean?
Yeah. But you say second thing is get your mind right about losing the client or be detached was really the essence there. And even though that is one of your steps, to me that is the thing that you need to get right with before you take any action, because if not, it is bound to come across like you're either saving the client, defending your position, none of which is good.
Very good. So let's make those rules. Don't save. My intent isn't to save this thing. My intent isn't to win the argument, to look good. And my intent is not to persuade them to my way of thinking.
Yeah. Because you won't.
You won't. Absolutely not. If you try to do that, you'll make it worse. Fair, right? So we want to make sure that we're calm and collected and relaxed, and we just want to have an open conversation with the person. Now we move into some of the external, the how to handle it part. First of all, I have found in my interactions with people that it's real easy to be really mean on email.
Totally agree.
Phone, right?
Totally agree.
It's much harder to be mean when I'm sitting right across the table from you. So I think instantly, after the calming process has been, if you've gone through that, then it's a phone call to the person that is, I feel really bad. You're clearly upset. I think this is a good thing to talk about face-to-face, eye-to-eye. When can we do that?
10-4. Perfect.
You okay with that?
Yep. Because I had this is weird, because I had this exact call come in from one of my clients about a week ago. It wasn't that they were mad. It was that they got purchased by another company. The arrangement is over at the end of December. Probably not going to go any further with them. And the email made me feel a little bit defensive, not because of how he wrote it, but because of how I read it.
Correct.
And you have to get right. That's lesson number one: is never write a reply to an irate email with another email.
Exactly.
Pick up the phone.
You pick up the phone. You make a phone call, and this is a conversation. Then once people get together, I think in a room, then it's much easier to have a calm, relaxed, open communication. Then very important, once you're then sitting there in that meeting, this is where this tool, we refer to it as an upfront agreement sometimes, a statement of intent, or in this case for me, it's about context setting. And you have to really spend some time setting context for this conversation to make the other person feel okay. Words that might be in their phrases would be, first of all, it is never comforting for us to get an email like this. We hate the fact that you feel this way. I tend sometimes, if I read things like this, I get defensive. I don't want to be that way, so I really don't want us to be in that mode. I really want us to have a good, open, just direct but open and frank dialogue about this, and understand that we may get to a point where we leave this table and can shake hands and we're back in good graces, Or if we've done damage that's undoable, then we'll have to live with that, and that's going to be.
That's all it is. I mean, if you do a good job in that first 2 minutes, it's done.
You're right.
It doesn't matter what you. I mean, then you can't be defensive when you start to get into the conversation. But as long as you can keep your defensive out, that is where that call either becomes a great has a great outcome or not.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting. And let's play for a minute that the person does say something.
Hang on a second. Okay. If you didn't hear what Bryan said there, listeners should go back, rewind the whatever, and slide the little thing back and listen to that again and listen to it over and over. And I would even, if you have a situation like this now, write those words out because frankly, those are the words. I don't know any other words that could be any better other than here's what happened. I'm acknowledging it. I'm very uncomfortable with it. I wish it didn't happen. If it means that we're done at the end of the day, then we're done at the end of the day. That is all you need to say.
Yeah, then it's over. And past that, then, if you're in the conversation and there are things that do rise up and that defensiveness comes back, I also found a great way to diffuse that is just to say that. Catch yourself to say, you're like, well, no, we didn't say that. Like, well, you told us that. Well, no, we didn't. And then you'll say, you know what, I'm getting defensive. I'm sorry. I can't be that way. Just by acknowledging to someone else that you're defensive, you'll see everything relaxes in the conversation.
And they probably will say, well, I am too.
No, I understand.
I am too.
Exactly. So,
or you could say, I'm getting defensive, and so are you.
Do you realize how defensive you're being right now? Huh? You need to look in a mirror, young man. Say that. That goes over
it's a
well.
Parent-child. Try to revert to a parent-child where you're the parent, they're the child. It's always a good.
Exactly. Sit them out.
No, I like that. I think that building the context. Number one, get in front of them, or at least start it by phone. Number two, set the stage for the discussion by revealing a little bit of your discomfort with where we are in this process.
Yeah, it's good. And then let it go where it goes. And the best thing you want to know is you want to get the truth from them. And I also counseled this client to go in. He wanted to go in and defend the case. He wanted to go in and say, well, the reason we did this is because we
That's
can't
natural.
And it's very, very natural. I want to go in and say, you're clearly upset. Why don't you just dump everything out and tell me what's on your mind, and just be quiet and listen. Let them dump. And then as they dump, ask more questions about what happened, why you feel that way, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good lesson. I think that's a lot of people deal with things like this, and if you haven't yet, you will. And it's wonderful to have a process to go through when you deal with an irate client, irate customer, irate prospect.
I wonder how many times a client can be irate, though. That was irate enough to put it in writing.
Yeah.
How many times do we have someone who's dissatisfied with our service or us, but they don't really come out and do that? And even in those situations, if you just feel like someone is not happy with you, you have to acknowledge, I get the feeling that you're not happy with our service, and I know you had a little complaint. You didn't make a big deal out of it, but tell me, I was really pissed off at you. So then you, again, go into this mode of don't be defensive, set the stage.
It's very good. Let's see. You can check out Whiteboard Wednesday again this Wednesday. Link up to us on LinkedIn. B. Neil, B. Caskey, Bryan Neil, Bryan Caskey on LinkedIn. You can also follow us on Twitter. And next episode, we're talking about what, Bill?
Yeah, next episode, we're going to talk about a checklist for your business. Even though we're not in your business, if we were coming in and either competing against you, or if you sold us your territory or sold us your job, we're going to tell you exactly the first 12 things we would do to launch.
Good.
So that's it.
Sounds good.
Talk to you next week.
Bye.
I'm getting defensive by revealing a little bit of your discomfort with where we are in this process.
Yeah, it's good. And then let it go where it goes. The best thing you want to know is you want to get the truth from them.